Tonight, we return to Bologna. The year is 1552, a city still humming with quieter revolutions, where light falls on scrolls instead of swords. Despite all the hardships, a young girl picks up a brush and visits us today. Her name was Lavinia Fontana. Imagine the narrow streets smelling of paint and the rain falling on the old stones. This was no ordinary place. Bologna, unlike most 16th century cities, had one of the first universities in Europe and allowed women to study. Among its scholars and philosophers lived Prospero Fontana, a respected painter and teacher. His studio was alive with apprentices, pigments, sketches of saints and noblemen, and right there, between the jars of pigment and rolls of parchment, his little daughter Lavinia, barely 11 years old, would sit quietly, watching every stroke of his brush. She wasn't supposed to be there, no young woman was, but Prospero saw something in her eyes. When most fathers taught their daughters to sew, Prospero handed Lavinia a brush. He taught her perspective, anatomy, light and shadow, lessons few women ever learned. Bologna was a rare place, a city of open minds, home to women like Laura Bassi, the physicist, and Elena Cornaro, one of the first women to earn a university degree. Lavinia's first paintings were portraits of family and friends, simple, honest, luminous. But what stood out wasn't the fabric or jewelry. It was the eyes. They didn't just look out, they looked back. It was as if she painted souls, not faces. By the time she turned 20, Prospero was receiving commissions from churches and noble families, and Lavinia began assisting him, secretly at first. Her hand was steady. Her colors were bolder than her father's. She understood something he didn't: how to make the ordinary sacred. When Prospero grew ill and work began to slow, Lavinia stepped in, quietly finishing commissions that carried her father's name. No one knew, not the clients, not the priests. The hands behind the saints and angels belonged to her. Years later, when she finally began signing her own name, many would be shocked to realize they had owned a Fontana all along, just not that Fontana. Lavinia's rise began with portraits: noble women, scholars, bishops, even cardinals. Her clients came not just for likeness, but for presence. She painted women as they had never been painted before, not as ornaments, but as people. They stared back with intelligence, humor, and authority. Their jewelry glittered, yes, but so did their minds. And that changed everything. Because these portraits, commissioned, paid for, proudly displayed, proved something radical. A woman could not only create art, she could make a living from it. Lavinia's power wasn't just in her technique. It was in her unique position as a woman who could step into the private world of her female patrons. Think about the atmosphere in her studio when a wealthy Bolognese woman, adorned with her best jewels and lace, came to pose. An established male painter, by law and custom, would have to maintain a certain formal distance. But Lavinia? She was one of them. She was a mother, a wife, and a fellow intellectual. This shared experience, this silent understanding, allowed for a level of intimacy and trust that no man could achieve. This intimacy became her greatest commercial asset. When noble women commissioned portraits of their daughters, or when they sought a painting for a private chapel celebrating motherhood, they preferred Lavinia. They believed she would treat the subjects of domestic life, childbirth, and female devotion with a sensitivity, dignity, and realism that men simply could not capture. Her famous portraits of children, often depicted with a striking alertness, glow with this empathy. They are not miniature adults. They are real, lively children. Her canvases acted like a confidant. She was not just hired to document wealth. She was trusted to capture the sitter's humanity. In return, these powerful women became her most loyal advocates, promoting her career within their exclusive social circles. In a patriarchal world, Lavinia built her career on a network of female power and mutual respect. Lavinia was raised in the heart of Mannerism, the dramatic, stylized movement that followed the High Renaissance. She learned the Mannerist love for rich, almost acidic colors and elongated forms from her father, Prospero. But her genius was in tempering that high drama with a quiet naturalism. She used the Mannerist palette, deep crimsons, shimmering golds, and cool blues, to render her figures with a stunning realism. Her style became a perfect bridge, the drama of Mannerism used to convey the dignity of the natural world. And when she painted smaller works, like devotional scenes or miniature portraits, she often used copper panels. This choice was purely practical and brilliant. Copper provides an unparalleled smooth, non-absorbent surface. This allowed her oil paints to retain a jewel-like luminosity and enabled her to achieve those microscopic details in lace and hair that made her work so sought after. The canvas itself became a mirror, reflecting the light back at the viewer. This technical mastery proved that Lavinia was not just painting what she saw, but commanding her materials like a true master. In her late 20s, Lavinia did something no woman in Europe had ever done. She opened her own studio, no father's permission, no husband's signature, just her, and the steady rhythm of her brush. Historians believe she completed over 175 paintings in her lifetime, an incredible number for any artist of her era, male or female. But the most important thing she created was independence. In 1577, Lavinia married Giovan Paolo Zappi, a nobleman from Imola, educated in law, but with the heart of a poet. In Renaissance Italy, husbands ruled, wives obeyed. While most husbands expected their wives to trade brushes for cradles, Giovan Paolo did the opposite. Their marriage was different. He stood beside her, managing letters, mixing colors, greeting patrons, doing everything he could so she could keep painting. Bologna called it madness. History calls it partnership. Together, they built something rare, the first creative marriage, built on equality, not permission, and it worked. Lavinia's paintings began to glow with confidence. Her name whispered in Bologna's grand halls. In her Portrait of a Noblewoman, the sitter's gown sparkles with gold and pearls. But Lavinia's true brilliance lies in the woman's gaze. Dignified, alert, human. It's as if she's aware of the centuries staring back at her. And she's perfectly fine with it. Another masterpiece. Self-Portrait at the Clavichord shows Lavinia herself playing music, a symbol of refinement and intellect. She paints herself as an equal, an artist and a scholar. It was her way of saying, "I am not your muse. I am your mirror." Her portraits hang in villas, churches, and council chambers. People travel from nearby cities to sit for her. Apprentices, both men and women, study under her. Imagine it. A woman artist teaching male students in the middle of the Renaissance. It's radical. In her Holy Family with Saint Catherine, Mary doesn't look unreachable. She looks like a mother, tired yet radiant. Christ, a real child. Joseph, protective but humble. The divine made domestic. And this, perhaps, was her secret. She didn't paint gods. She painted people who happened to be holy. In art history, there's a term we use now, the female gaze. But Lavinia was doing it 400 years before it had a name. When male painters of her time depicted women, they painted ideals, beauty, purity, temptation. But Lavinia painted presence. Her women didn't just sit for portraits, they participated in them. In her Minerva dressing, the goddess of wisdom doesn't pose for admiration. She stands in front of a mirror, draping her robe with quiet dignity. There's nothing seductive about it, only strength. And yet, the work is beautiful, luminous, sensual in its honesty. This was Lavinia's rebellion, to paint the female body not as an object, but as a vessel of intellect and identity. It's subtle, but it changed everything. Her technique evolved. Too, gone were the timid colors of her early years. Now, her canvases pulsed with deep reds, golds, and greens. Her brushstrokes became freer, more confident, each layer of oil shimmering like silk. Her use of texture rivaled even Titian, the Venetian master of color. And her portraits? They could sit comfortably beside any male contemporary and hold their ground. Still, she remained humble. When asked about her success, she once replied, "I only paint what I see and what I feel." Simple words. But that's what made her great. As her fame grew, Lavinia became known as La Dottoressa, the lady scholar. She wasn't just a painter now. She was a thinker, a philosopher of faces. People came not just for her skill, but for her company. Then came one of her greatest triumphs, the visit of the Queen of Sheba to King Solomon. It's grand, theatrical, filled with regal color. But what makes it special isn't the composition, it's the women. Look at the Queen of Sheba, proud, intelligent, radiant. She meets Solomon's gaze as an equal. Every gesture, every fold of fabric tells you she knows her worth. Art historians see this painting as Lavinia's self-portrait in disguise. The Queen of Sheba is Lavinia, standing before the world's judgment, confident in her brilliance. It's her declaration. I am not a guest in this kingdom. I am its architect. By the 1590s, Lavinia Fontana was no longer just Bologna's artist. Her reputation had crossed the Alps. And in Rome, the very heart of the Catholic world, the Pope himself had heard her name. A letter soon arrived. It bore the papal seal. Inside, an invitation. Rome was calling. She looked at her husband. Bologna had given her everything, a name, a purpose, a home. But now, destiny whispered again. It was time to leave. In the spring of 1603, Lavinia Fontana packed her brushes, her sketches, her courage, and left Bologna for the eternal city, Rome, the heart of faith, the city of power, marble, and spectacle. Her husband, Giovan Paolo, carried their supplies, crates of pigments, rolls of canvas, and a single chest filled with letters from Bologna. Not long after her arrival, a papal envoy visited her studio. She was commissioned to paint Pope Clement VIII and several cardinals of his court. It was a first. Never before had a woman been given such authority in the Vatican's artistic circles. When she stood before the Pope to prepare her sketches, witnesses said Clement smiled and said, "We are told your hand carries grace where others seek glory." And indeed, her portraits of the papal court were unlike any other. No theatrical gestures, no overdone halos, just stillness, intelligence, light. Her portrait of Pope Clement VIII shows him not as a figure of divine power. His eyes are human, his robe majestic, yet worn. She painted the Pope not as a deity, but as an aging man weighed down by his decisions. It was truth painted with compassion. This level of success led to the ultimate crowning achievement. Lavinia Fontana was elected to the Accademia di San Luca, Academy of St. Luke. This was the most prestigious academic institution for artists in Rome. Membership wasn't just an honor. It was the formal recognition that an artist's skill and intellect placed them at the very pinnacle of the profession. Her next great work was an enormous altarpiece for the Jesuit Church of St. Luke in Rome. The subject, the Assumption of the Virgin. But unlike the idealized visions of the time, Lavinia's Virgin looked real, tender, grounded, radiant in simplicity. The apostles gazed upward, not in awe, but in love. And Mary looked as if she recognized every one of them. The church called it a masterpiece of devotion. Art historians now call it empathy on canvas. Students came to her not just for technique, but for wisdom. She would tell them, "You must paint what you believe, not what you are told." Imagine it. A warm Roman evening, the windows open to the sound of bells, the smell of oil and beeswax, and Lavinia at her easel, her silver hair tucked behind her veil, her hand still steady. In her 60s now, Lavinia began to slow down. Her eyesight weakened, but her clarity deepened. Her later portraits glow with quiet reflection, less ornament, more essence. She no longer painted power. She painted peace. Her final self-portrait, now lost to time, was described by contemporaries as a mirror of her own patience. They say she painted herself not as a beauty, nor as a master, but as a woman content with what she had become. When Lavinia Fontana died in 1614, Rome mourned her like a queen. She was buried in Santa Maria sopra Minerva, the same church that would later hold the tomb of Michelangelo's student and of her spiritual sister, Sophonisba Anguissola. Her epitaph read, "To Lavinia Fontana, distinguished in painting, who equaled her father's fame and surpassed it." And so, as the centuries turned, her name faded beneath layers of dust and marble. For generations, her paintings were misattributed to men, her mythological scenes locked away in private collections. But she was never truly gone, because every time a woman stands before a blank canvas and chooses to paint her truth instead of her reflection, Lavinia Fontana lives again. She didn't need to shout. She didn't need to fight. She simply painted, and in doing so, proved that art could be power without arrogance, and beauty without permission. So tonight, as you drift into the quiet, imagine her there, a candle burning low in her Roman studio, the brush still wet with ochre and light, the city hushed beyond her window. She breathes once, looks at the painting before her and whispers, "It is enough." Her story ends where ours begins, In the moment, art becomes freedom.